You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the June 2024 regular council meeting for the Municipal District of St. Stephen. I'm Florence Mitchell. In today's meeting, Council will move to approve the renewal of St. Croix Public Library Board member Jane Lindsay for a one-year term. Requests for decisions will be made regarding a potential redesign of Rotary Park and a draft annual report. Finally, Mayor McEachern will read correspondence from the St. Stephen Rural Cemetery and the Royal Canadian Legion Junior Ladies Auxiliary. Now let's join Council in the Moosehead Room at the Garceland Civic Centre in St. Stephen.
Here we go. Welcome everyone to the Municipal District of St. Stephen Council agenda, Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 6 exactly p.m. Everyone's here. We have Councilor Eastman's on the screen there with us. So all council is in attendance. Before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are gathered today on the ancestral unceded territory of the Passamaquoddy peoples. Before we get going, I need a mover and seconder for the agenda.
I so move.
Councilor Greenlaw, Councilor Eastman, that the agenda for the regular council meeting of June 26, 2024 be approved. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion approved. Thank you. Any conflicts of interest this evening? Okay. All right. Mover and seconder for the regular council meeting of May 29, 2024 be approved as presented.
So moved.
Councilor Harding, Councilor Heislip. Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mover and seconder to move into the report of the Chief Administrative Officer. Be acknowledged. Received. Councilor Greenlaw.
Second.
Deputy Mayor Wheaton. Any questions? Okay. Anything to report, sir?
Thank you, Your Worship. So a few updates since the report was written. On the financial services review project, I can confirm that our consultants will be on site next week, July 2nd to July 5th, doing their in-person review and interviews stage of that project. And based on the current timelines, we're looking at a project completion at the end of September. Will be the report to council by the consultants on their findings and their recommendations. So so far it looks like everything's going quite smoothly. Good cooperation from Tim and his team, getting some information out, and we should have our recommendations in time at the front end of our budget cycle so you guys can make some determinations along the way when it comes to that stuff. So that's going quite well. Did meet with Canada First basketball representation yesterday afternoon to talk about the memorandum of understanding that we're trying to get through. I think we made a fair bit of progress on a few key issues that we were a little bit. There was a bit of a gap between our positions, I think, but we've closed the gap, and we keep working towards that. We're looking at having them make a presentation to council at the August Committee of the Whole as the next touch point that we have established. And I'm going to meet with them before that to go over the presentation and help out with that. Traffic impact assessment relating to a potential redevelopment of Border Arena area. That is ongoing. Field work was completed, but now they're just working on their recommendations. Had to get a little bit more background information about our timings on our traffic lights, things like that. And of course, the Deputy CEO and I were away for our professional development at the CAMA conference. I provided council and the public a list of the sessions that were held over the course of the event. Like most of these events, those are great sessions and a lot of learning happens, but a lot of the benefit, much like UMNB conferences for you folks, is the conversations that happen over lunch and in the hallways, and the learning that happens as we share our own struggles in our own communities with each other and try and find solutions for each other. Was an excellent excellent conference. With respect to the executive assistant activities, they're listed there. I will say that while I was out of the office today, Celeste did advise me that our Access E11 is now open on our website for citizens looking for service requests. They can put them directly into our work order system now. Keeping in mind, this is the front edge of the wedge, and we'll have some learnings to come, but it is out there. And so even if you folks around the council table get concerns and things like that, you can either redirect citizens to that portal to have them fill out the information, or if you have it via email, I would encourage you to put it into the system through that for us, it will help us not only address the situation, but also find any kinks in the system that lets us improve it over the next little bit while we get iron the bugs out. But it's been a long time coming and a lot of work for Celeste to get that off and open to the public, so much appreciation for that. And last thing, I just wanted to say thank you to all the host families for the international students. They left, most of them left today at the airport, and they're a great asset to our community when they come. And if anybody's interested to supporting that program, they can contact our own Michelle Vest. Always looking for host families. They're a great. It's a great experience for the kids and for the host families, I can say. So yeah, I wish that all of them safe travels on their way back to parts all over the world. And with that, if there's any questions, I'll happy to take them.
Were there any common themes that came up at your conference, like ones that really stood out to you that you found that things that we're having challenges with that other municipalities are having, or CAOs are having challenges with? And what do you think your biggest key takeaway was from that whole conference?
I think, it's no surprise. The housing crisis is a nationwide issue that we're all struggling with, and we're all trying to figure out how to get through. Much of the conference program was dealing with organizational culture, which is something that, again, many municipalities struggle with, and don't say any secret that we can always look to improve upon. And we were talking a fair bit about council staff relations during this session, and working on that dynamic between the role that CAOs play as that linchpin between the political and the administrative, and how to survive that relationship, to borrow a phrase of one of the presenters. So there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of pressures. We all know the inflation hits our budgets just like it does anybody's personal budget, and we live in a political world where raising tax rates is difficult. People are struggling to survive, and paying more to the municipality or to the provincial government or the federal government doesn't help them. And yet we still have to provide them roads and everything else. So it's finding new and unique ways for revenue generation is a big concern for CAOs. And I know UMNB is working with the government on fiscal reform and things like that. But these are things that we're going to have to address quickly for the sustainability of municipal government across the country, honestly. And New Brunswick is relatively small, and that sometimes makes the struggle a little bit harder than, say, Ontario, where they have assessment bases that dwarf our own. So, but yeah, there's lots of challenges out there right now, a lot of pressures. And the other thing that I'll say is that one thing we talk about is I look at my colleagues at the conference, and we are giving out awards for people that have had 40 years, 45 years of service. And when you look at that, you realize there's a wave that's going to hit the CAO industry of retirement, and the supply demand side of doing what those of us on this side of the desk, whether it's the CAO or any of the directors, do. It's the search for talent for municipalities is going to get tougher and tougher. And we're all trying to figure out the succession planning best way to survive those things is to retain your own people, and we have to be able to do that as well. So, that's more than one, but it's a wide breadth of things that we talk about in the course of the week and explore with each other. So,
Great question. Great. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. Any further questions? All right, I had a mover and a seconder, no other questions. All those in favor of accepting the report? No, I already got that. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, public comments?
Good evening. Okay. The first thing I'd like to bring up is the drug situation in this town. Even though even though there's no building where all the squatters were and people were, as recent as the morning of the fire, the RCMP were there removing someone from that house. So it is a big issue, as I know all of you know. I was speaking with someone who lives on Lisgar Street, and they're back in there. They stole from her garage, and Ron and I had not known that, but I just found that out yesterday when she gave me a call. I would like to thank all of the councillors who responded to our emails after the fire. It was really, really helpful. We heard from a good number of you, either by phone or email. 80 Union Street is gone, but the drug problem is still plaguing our community and is still here on Schoodic, Elm, Mark, VZ, and other parts of our community. Also, petty and major crimes are continuing to increase, as I know all of you know that. I would like to thank the RCMP because over the last 5 good years, they responded to us between 90 and 100% of the times that we called, and it was a lot. They were good to Union Street anyway. There is obviously, and also, I will say that it was a bit unnerving last week watching the provincial news, and they had 5 places that were in New Brunswick that had a lot of drug problems. There were 3 cities, and Woodstock and St. Stephen mentioned, and that was not a good feeling to see and hear that, because I know people say it's everywhere, but we really, really, really need to do some more for the citizens of this area. I'm going to close now. I have one huge thank you for the fire department in St. Stephen and the help that they had. I sat up until after 4 o'clock because you know I'm right across the street from the building that went down, and it was a long few hours, but if that ladder truck hadn't been there, I really feel we would have lost more buildings with the trees and the buildings as close as they were. That ladder truck, it actually, around 2:30, it was coming down, and I thought, oh no, because there was still quite a bit of building there and a lot of fire, and I just thought, but I think they probably had to get a new pilot for the ladder truck, or, is what happened, because they did go back up at the water loss, but thank God you had that. I think, if I remember correctly, that the town started putting money away for that truck when John Quartermain was, I think, he was mayor. And just, anyway, the firemen were excellent, and I can't say enough about that department. Thank you.
Just on that fire, we all know, we have a mutual agreement with the American side as well. So, we have firefighting power like most cities have in a small town, because we combine the efforts. And plus the rural people come in and we go out. So it's, we're very lucky to have the people that we have around us. Yes, and it's a very large building, so it was very concerning for sure. Thank you.
Hi there, Judy Els Whittingham, and I live on 80 Union, very handy to my neighbors here. I just wanted to say very similar kind of a thing. From the moment that I saw a glow across the street to the time it was in full flame was about 8 minutes. You have no time when buildings like this go up. The sad thing is we're surrounded by so many of these starshine buildings. We happen to be lucky that ours is set at distance from these, but think of all the people who live in this community and these buildings are right beside them. And so much, this could happen so much, so easy that there really has to be something we can do to make a difference that this doesn't continue. I also want to make a huge thank you, as did Judy, for the huge effort that the fire department put in. I could tell by the looks on their faces there was moments when they thought they weren't going to be able to hold it in. But again, the ladder truck that they had that sprayed from above was a huge asset. I couldn't imagine it. Had there been a wind, we could have been in a much different situation. But it was wonderful to see that all happen and all the effort. I do think, too, though, about all the resources that we continually put into these houses that the community has to suffer. And again, thank you hugely to the fire department and all the first responders that came along. Thank you.
Is you coming up, David? Yes. Okay.
I'll be short. I noticed on the agenda there's no report coming from Future St. Stephen, and so I wonder what the situation was. Some of the things that Jeremy Barham has mentioned in recent council meetings to do with the hotel bid. Was that successful? Can the council or the mayor?
I don't get in trouble. You want to speak to that, Jeff?
Sure. So the results of the bidding process for the hotel site across the street here, where all bids that were received were rejected by the trustee. So the matter is still remains with the court, and the trustee, is our understanding, is looking at an alternative way to market the property, likely by sale via an agent of some kind. But we're still waiting for details on what the next steps are going to be.
Thank you, Jeff. Also regarding the Starshine properties, there was supposed to be this morning, 3 Starshine properties were going up for a mortgage sale, and that was advertised in the Telegraph Journal. But because of the loss of the building at 80 Union, my understanding in speaking to the lawyer's office that it's been postponed until July 10th. And it's been postponed. That's the call I got. And the information package for the sale, they said would be available the day after Canada Day, so like the 2nd. That's when they anticipate. Just for your information. A question about councillor monthly reports. It used to be maybe pre-amalgamation that at the end of the council meetings, the councillors would give their verbal reports. And then it was changed to being requiring written reports. And is that a requirement or just a suggestion?
Then they can put it in, yeah.
So it's not a requirement. They have to, as a councillor, provide a monthly report of what their activities are. Okay, thanks.
Hi. I'm Ashley McSorley. I'm the president of St. Stephen Minor Baseball Association. This is Shonda Seeley. She's my vice president. So we came tonight to talk about the potential redesign of the Rotary Field, which to our understanding includes a parking lot fence around the entire perimeter of the parking lot. First of all, we want to thank the town. The crew has done a fabulous job with that field. It's the best it's looked in years. We are using it at least for 4 practices a week and games on the weekends. We do have the potential of bringing in tournaments and exhibition games, bringing more people into our town, which is always fantastic. As many of you know, we've lost the Milltown field already, so we are already at a loss of baseball fields to begin with, this one being the only town-owned ball field. So without access to this field, I fear that we are going to lose the only town-owned baseball field that we have. As you can see from the past people who've come up to speak, I think recreation is extremely important at the moment with the drug use and the crime and things that we have in town. We need to keep our youth busy. We need to keep them involved. So I'm hoping that there's something in the works. What we would like to know is what's the town doing to kind of rectify this situation? Are there any solutions on the table?
So we're discussing that tonight, actually, as, yeah, we're looking at plans to work around the situation that potentially could happen. So we're just preparing. Yeah.
Yeah, so with this loss, and losing the only town-owned field that we have, we also worry about the safety of our children who will now be forced to park all the way down Queen Street. You know, we have 8 and 9-year-olds that are lugging, you know, up to 75 pounds worth of baseball equipment to and from the diamond. So if the Legion is going to erect this fence around the whole perimeter of the parking lot, essentially that's not going to be accessible to any of the children who use that area, and not just for minor baseball, but for other user groups of the field as well. So whoever is accessing that field. And I mean, that's also not to mention the residents who live on Queen Street who are going to be bombarded with vehicles in front of their house and on the street, and kids running and all that kind of stuff that comes along with having a field. So we do realize there are some close ties between the town and the Legion, and we would like to know how we're also going to be ensured that the taxpayers' best interests are being taken into consideration and are being fairly met within this situation.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the package, but we're designing a place to park and trying to make work with what we have. Yeah. If you've seen, like, we haven't even talked about this yet, but this is in the package that we're discussing tonight. Yeah, but I mean, we received your emails. Everyone understands the situation, and we're doing the best we can, providing the field we have to play on, so to speak. So, but definitely understand everything.
There is a level of disappointment between seeing sort of how things have been going between the town and the Legion and all the stuff that has come out of this being brought to light. Yeah. So it is quite disheartening as someone who, I'm from a military family, we're actively involved in the Legion, to know that this is something that is going to block off access for our children in the community is quite disheartening. So,
thank you.
Thanks for your words on that. And like I said, what goes on with the Legion, I said we got to work with what we're given. So let's see how it all. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But
hoping the lines of communication can stay open, which is what we're hoping.
The other field you're talking about comes back by next year too, but I don't know how quickly that's going. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Yes, Chandra.
Hi, Chandra Best, Leverville, yeah. I just have a few questions about the package. So the first one is regarding the Milltown pool. It's on the top of page 88 in the package. And it was identified that the patchwork that's been done isn't working very well, and there's leaking water and chemicals. So I went back and I was looking at the budget, and I know that again, things may have changed, and I guess that's one of my questions, of whether or not things have changed, that council had said that that was a must-do, the repair on that pool. And then it looks to me like there's an allocation of $25,000 for repairs to that liner. So what I'm wondering is the $25,000 now spent on the patchwork? Because that seems really expensive. And then I guess that I know you're going to discuss it tonight and probably again in the future, but obviously we'll want to know exactly what the town plans to do. But I think my first question is, did the $25,000 get spent now on the repairs to the liner?
I don't believe so yet, but no. But we'll be discussing that tonight again as well. Yeah. Do you want to speak about that, Kev?
I can. So I will speak a little bit about it later on. The $25,000 we have in our operational budget, so much towards general repairs for the Milltown pool. It covers all kinds of repairs to the building, to the liner. The good news is that we haven't used much of that line yet, and we're hoping that it's very similar to last year's. That maybe a slight increase. I can look at that when I speak. I can look at the numbers in between. To replace the line would be about 10 times that. Yeah. So we're not going to be using that much to patch it. We know it's going to be a short-term repair work. It is literally, getting patches from whether it's Canadian Tire, Andes, and adding some duct tape just to help secure as well. It's what we've done for the last few years. It's not ideal, but we don't have a lot of professional repairers that are in Atlantic Canada that could come and do this. So we haven't used it. That's the very short answer to the question. So.
We'll talk more about that, but yeah, that 25,000, as you alluded to, is operational cost or maintenance, like without a leak. Yeah. Sorry?
Is it okay to ask a few more questions?
Sure.
One more. Okay. So thank you for that reply. So on the top of page 89, there's talk about the 199 Union Street, which I think is the Public Works and the Fire Department building, and the fact that it's in disrepair, going downhill, that type of thing. So what I'm wondering is, I know that there's plans or requirements for an asset management plan coming up for next year. So is that part of MDSS strategic plan, or is that something that's separate from that? And if it is part of the strategic plan, is there already have you set up your SMART goal planning? And just thinking back to last 2 weeks ago, looking at those SMART goal sheets. So I'm just wondering about, I guess, the status of the asset management plan.
It's related to our strategic plan, yes. I mean, it was discussed in there too, and it's one of the tools we need to have a plan. And so it is related. I don't know if anyone else want to add any more to that, but to even borrow. Yeah.
25, I believe, isn't it, Jeff?
Go ahead, Jeff.
So the asset management plan, we have the preliminary plan, which all municipalities are required to have in place. It's due for a renewal. In conjunction with our renewal, there's also Phase 2 asset management plan, which is quickly coming from the provincial government and essentially down from the federal government as well. That we'll have to take our asset management planning up to the next level of sophistication. We'll be looking at probably Federation of Canadian Municipalities for funding assistance on that as well, which is exactly how we did our first level as well. So the renewal of these facilities, whether that's repair in place or actual full-on replacements, will be part of the long-term asset management plan, which will come up at budget as well, because what's the requirements of all these elements are feed into our capital budget planning. So it is a strategic issue, but we keep it separate from our strategic plan in the sense that it needs to stand alone as an asset management plan for our funding agencies and legislative bodies.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And then finally, I wanted to refer to the draft annual report, which starts on page 124. I know there's it's just a work in progress, and it's kind of like all placeholders and that kind of thing, so I could totally appreciate that. One of the things I noticed is that there is not a placeholder for identifying amounts paid to council allowances for doing their duties. So I'm wondering if that's going to be included as part of the audited financial statements, which are pending.
I think there is money allotted for that.
In the annual report, it's actually the bylaw that does the remuneration of council is on page 5 of the annual report, which is 129 of the package in front of us.
Right, so that's am I allowed to reply to that? So that's the remuneration piece, but then the next piece is also identifying all of the allowances, which is in the regulation under section 4F something. I forget. I don't have the number in front. 41F7.
I think you're referring to items such as travel expenses. Yes. We're waiting on the financial statements to confirm those numbers for us. We have a request into the finance department to acquire those.
Okay, perfect. Yep. And then I think that the the report is due this month, so I'm wondering, I guess a couple things is, do we have an extension from the province? Or do we need an extension? Does it have to be approved before it's posted for public viewing? Because the Act and the regulations state that it has to be posted for public to be able to access it. And then kind of probably along with the delay and the fact that it's not completed is I wanted to know if the accounting firm, which we've had in place since 2019, if they're still on board and if they're the ones that are working on the 2023 audited statements.
Go ahead, Jeff. I mean, yes, it is the same firm, but go ahead.
Sure. As far as the auditing firm, it is the same firm. It's not the contractor. The contractor's waiting materials from the finance department in order to conduct their work. So that's not the concern. As far as are we in good standing when it comes to the annual report, I can say that the province is well aware of the situation, and we're in good standing with them in relation to our annual report at this time.
Sorry, I didn't hear about whether the province has to approve the report before it's made available to the public.
No, there's no requirement for the department does not ask for us to approve it. They just ask, or they do not ask to have a copy to approve like they do our budget. They just ask that we provide it and we publish it to our citizens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Next, I need a mover and seconder to move into the departmental informational reports. Councillor Harding. Councillor Rodas. And we'll go to Deputy CAO report. He's off on vacation. I don't know, are you going to speak to that, Jeff? Or just, is there any, is there any questions on the Deputy CAO report?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Jeff?
Brian?
Push the button or not?
No, you're good. Screen. Don't touch it.
Okay, good. I was going to speak about 80 Union Street, et cetera, but that's been pretty well covered by the audience tonight. But I do have one thing that I'd like to bring up, and it's sort of out of our control, but I've been bitching about it now for a year and a half. And that's Hanson's Cove, Mahannes, and it directly affects the municipal district of St. Stephen. And I've been saying all the way along with pictures, slides, talking to provincial government as early, 3 times this year, and as early as 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago. The road going into Hanson's Cove, Woodland Flowage, as I said before, the road is now called, I think it's undesignated. We as a town really don't own any of that yet. I want that clear. But I think the provincial government definitely owes us something, because I pointed out that this road is in deplorable condition. It's washed out at the top, bottom part not too bad, and I'm not even going to talk about the wharf. The bottom line is police, customs, ambulance, we've even had our personal boats used for searching for bodies at night and in day. Unless you're driving a 4-wheel drive vehicle or something that's half decent, and I see someone that fishes out there quite often along the shore, and I don't know how he does it over the logs and stuff. But something happened this weekend that really brought it to my attention and was reported to me by a reliable source high up in the provincial fire department, not our own, that I think it was Saturday or Friday, a fire broke out, a forest fire broke out on that road, which I identified that this road needs to be maintained in order to get the fire department down in there. I was told that the fire carts have been down in there several times. They even got stuck once. This call, they were there for 4 hours fighting a fire. Now, that is a heavily, heavily worded area. It was started apparently by the railway system, trains, fire, sparks, I guess, off. They had to call in our fire department to go. They were there for 4 hours. Now, which way the wind blows, Upper Mills, Mahannis, Burnt Hill. She could get to Milltown. And I'm really upset because absolutely nothing, zip, has been done, and myself complaining and others, over the last year and a half. Nothing to do with the town, because obviously we don't own that yet, but we have no cooperation whatsoever from the provincial government in trying to maintain safety. And if someone trained could have been disastrous. So anyway, I'm waiting for another call back, which I've put into, saying, basically, what the hell's going on? And I have to be rude, but come on, guys. We got things that have to be done around here, and that's a safety issue. The road is called, I think it's called undesignated, which means it's owned by the government, but not maintained. Basically, it takes a couple loads of gravel and a grader to fix it up. That's it. I vented my frustrations and just want to let people know in my riding, I'm still on it, but I'm failing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll just make one suggestion, though, Brian, or Councillor.
That's okay.
We should put it, like, something like that, you should literally officially put it on the agenda so that it gives it more teeth, not, because it's just talk now. I'm not saying it's not worth anything, but it carries more weight if we actually discuss it as council as an agenda item. But as you know, it's not our thing, but we could put it under fire. Or no, we'll probably don't even fight the fires out there. Anyway.
I mean, what I've done, Councillor, through your worship, is I made some notes here regarding the situation. I'll talk to Mr. Morton upon his return, and we might be able to get enough of the first responders to articulate some concerns to us that we can put together a formal letter or something from council, articulating these concerns, articulating the impact it has upon our own people responding to the area, and at least put something down on paper, and hopefully we get a response, at least a written response back from the agencies involved.
No, you make the green light.
Basically, that question was for our fire department. It wasn't a critical one, wasn't on the agenda, I wasn't preparing for anything. I was basically going to bring it up to our fire chief because he's been working with us on this. No criticism from the town, but somewhere along the line, we got to have some cooperation in some of these areas. But no formal presentation. It was going to be a question for our fire.
But it should have. Or give it some more weight. Like, but we'll get the letter out now. That's a good point. That'll give it some weight. Okay. All right. Yeah. Who was first over there? Go ahead, Councilor Otis. Go ahead.
Yeah, she was late.
This is more of a question for the general public, Jeff, if you can answer it, just because I've had a lot of conversations with constituents wondering, once again, just seeking clarity on where it ends for us when it comes to unsightly and dangerous premises and how they can advocate with the province in a more strategic way from a citizen perspective. So if you could kind of just give, again, the quickest overview of kind of the process if somebody puts in a complaint, where it ends for us and where it begins with the province, and how they can advocate as from a citizen lens with the provincial government in order for us to have some teeth.
Yeah, I mean, the problems with the Dangerous Unsightly Act are not that it doesn't have teeth. The problem, the frustrations that the general public has in my discussions with them, and that we have on this side of the table with it, is the timelines. The timelines are excessively long, and we want private property owners to have protections from, very quick responses from authority figures, and we need to give them time to address concerns. But when we start talking about, a dilapidated building that under the Act we've said is the potential public safety hazard, and it's taking us 6 or 8 months just to get through the bureaucratic red tape to get to the point where the community, and oftentimes those of us on staff where we would like to get to, that's where the frustration lies. It's the timelines. The only way those timelines change, unfortunately, is a change of the Act. Those are ingrained in the Act that's held by the provincial government. I would be, if people do want to provide some assistance on that, I would say, the way to do that is to contact the province, the provincial representatives, and explain that. Like, it's not that we need to have a way to expedite those timelines. 3 months between notices, or 2 to 3 months between first and second notice, is a long time. You can do a lot of stuff if you're motivated to fix your property. That's a long time. You can do a lot of things there. And what was really frustrating is when we've given a notice and literally nothing has happened. Either we've been ignored or things like that. I think legislation can be drafted differently, where in those cases timelines should be allowed to be sped up if they've rejected their registered letter, or if they've if they're just ignoring the process completely. We want to work with people. We want compliance. We always strive for compliance rather than enforcement. And if people are working with us, we're happy to take a little bit extra time. But it's the ones that we all know aren't complying, aren't working with anybody, and are still taking, the better part of a year before citizens see something on site. We may see a lot of paperwork go through my office, knowing that the process is moving, and because we can't advertise that where we're at each step of the way, it gets really frustrating for you folks to asking us for updates, and we're like, we really can't say. And I've had the same conversation with the chamber and the BIA lately. Like, we need a way to communicate things, at least some basics, to keep people in the loop, but the timelines are the real challenge. And if there was ever going to be a government that came in and said they were going to work with UMNB and stuff to figure out a way to compress those timelines some, that would go a long way in a lot of communities, not just ours, to settling some of these long-standing issues.
Go a little bit further, and then there's a pact where they don't comply, but there is times when they do comply, and then it stops and starts again. And can you just share that again for I don't know how many times we brought it up, but I just want to. It does cause.
Yeah, it's a matter of, if again we work with courts compliance. Sometimes those arrangements fall apart. Depending on the nature of that, we may have to restart. In many cases, we don't, because we will run parallel. What I've been working with Mr. Morton on is running parallel processes, not stopping the bureaucratic red tape machine. Even though they're working with us, if you have a project, we can sit down for a project meeting, saying, where are you at? Okay, by the way, we've hit the timeline. Here's your second notice. And when are you going to have equipment on site? When are you going to? And we keep working with them, but that's the way we've tried to speed things up, because it used to be, if they're working with you, you pause. And the reason that a lot of municipalities would do that is it looks really good when you get in front of the judge. If it gets challenged in court, you can say, no, we stopped because they were working with us and we were working with them. And while it looks good, if we don't take an action for a certain period of time, depending on what it is, then we are required to go back to step one, which is, hey, we've just got a complaint about you, and that's tough. So we're working on a parallel system, so we don't have to do those stop starts as much as we used to in years ago.
Well, that's great to know, just because I know that there have been some kind of hot spots mentioned tonight. So, I mean, I think from a citizen perspective, if you know that there's kind of the same issue happening on the street and every single resident on that street is really struggling with it, it is wonderful to have those conversations with the provincial representative to say, what can we do about those timelines in special circumstances where these properties are actually perpetuating a consistent housing crisis in our community. I have one other quick question. It's just, if you're a resident and you have an encampment or somebody burning fires on your property, and your property is private to you and you call bylaw, can the bylaw officer intervene even though it is your own private property?
We try to render assistance where we can. Our bylaw officer is pretty good about being able to talk to people that may have set up an illegal encampment and getting them to move along. We don't have the authority to remove, which is where the RCMP come in. They have the ability to actually force it. Our bylaw officer, Brent, he has a good working relationship with a lot of the folks that are living rough, and can generally get compliance just through a more informal mechanism. So if he's available and he's in the area, then he's willing to do that usually. But if I want them gone by the end of the day, that's the RCMP's their role in that one.
Yes, just quick comment on that, actually, was maybe we should do something like that info diagram that we did for the levels of government, just to have because we've been ad nauseum there doing this, discussing this unsightly and dangerous premises. So maybe if we had something that was simple and just a flow diagram of how it works and why why it's not a speedy process. And the question, or not the question, but well, I guess it is a question. I'd like to see us talk about these undesignated. There's undesignated roads, and there's roads that we don't own all over this municipality or municipal district now. And we should have like some kind of criteria of which ones are, like, I mean, to say that there's no access for first responders and everything, there's a lot of areas that there's no access to first responders. I mean, I know because I drive a Jeep and I've gone into the backwoods and I'm probably the only one and a few of us can get in there. I mean, why is one area, I know it's access to the, and I agree that I agree. Yeah, there's others too, so maybe we should have some kind of discussion around that of what the process is to get these upgraded or get them designated a different way, right? So.
Yeah. Two things in response to the councillor. Interesting what you brought up, the infographic on the dangerous and unsightly stuff. Just had my meeting last week with the Chamber of Commerce representatives, and we had came up with the exact same idea. To try and work on some of those things that make things a little more understandable for the general public, as well as potentially some information sessions. But we're working on some communication stuff around those types of issues. So you're spot on that one. And as far as the road, I think perhaps, not to put him on the spot, but I think perhaps Alex's team we might be able to work together and start with inventorying the rural roads a little bit more than we have, because they haven't been our responsibility. But to start getting a concept of what we have, where, when, what they look like, because we all expect the day will come that those roads will not be done by our friends at GMB anymore. So it might be a chance that we can work together on at least some preliminary inventory work and start prepping for those kind of conversations about what do these things look like and how are we going to get them to a state that we're satisfied with. Does that make sense to you?
I'm not sorry, I just shut you down there, but I like the idea of that, because if we're talking about having something that we may never ever get, but this seems like the writing's on the wall, but we don't want them to get into such disrepair and then the province just hand them to us in a mess. They still need to maintain them before they give them to us. So at least we'd have an idea of what's there now and where it got to. So that's probably good math to have, or good data. Okay. No, go ahead, Brian, or Councillor.
That's okay, Brian. No. Just not one, Jeff, also, in the rural area, basically, we have very little control over anything from potholes to whatever. If I call in to the local management, I can't talk to them. I have to go to St. John. If a person calls in to the big pothole, like I've done with you before, you've fixed potholes for us by going through it, we have to go to St. John to get someone to fix a pothole. If I give my address, SOL, because I'm not a resident. Pothole's not in front of my house, okay? So as a councillor, I can't do any more about it than you as a resident. I called up, I need 2 roads, both of them 2 kilometers, not very long, repaired, bad. Locally, they won't talk to me. So I phoned Fredericton, or St. John. When's the road gonna be done? It's bad shape. Yeah, not till after 2027. I said, could you send me some documentation of what roads and what things are going to be done and when, so when people call me as their representative, for what's worth, I can tell them something. I haven't received it yet, and that was 2 weeks ago. So we're in a problem here that we're going to inherit, someday probably, but it makes us rural representative look like we haven't got too much between the ears, because we can't answer any questions because we can't get any answers. That's all I'm going to say.
I was just going to say that you make it clear to your residents that that is not the service that you're providing to them.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you're providing fire, police, and you got to focus on those because they're keeping that tax base to do that work for you. But we still could go through this office and give some push. But go ahead, Jeff.
My suggestion was that this is this one will need a big push on the political side. And much as I really like putting Councillor Greenlaw to work sometimes, but I think this is a UMB thing because these rural roads and the interplay between the municipal governments that were established and these rural roads, it's not just us. It's a flaw in the system. It's a flaw in the system that CAOs identified in the early part of transition. That okay, if we're not going to be the ones calling the shots on these roads, how's that interface going to work between we're going to be the ones getting the complaints, we're going to be the ones that people expect to have control over this stuff, and we don't. And the plea for a formal relationship between how that conversation happens fell on deaf ears at the time. I think that's a UMB thing, whether that's a resolution at the annual meeting or through one of the committees, but because I think UMB has enough political clout to push to say we have a pain point here between your responsibilities and our responsibilities to advocate for our citizens, and how are we gonna fix that pain point? UMB is in the best position to have that conversation with deputy ministers and ministers. So my suggestion would be that that maybe we can work with Councillor Greenlaw in his board of directors role with the UMB to decide whether we need to do a resolution or whether we need to just put the topic into their system and how to best do that. But I think they've got the spot to address this better than we do sitting in this room.
Okay. All right, any more questions on the Deputy CAO report? Holy.
Thank you, Sean.
All right, we'll move on to the Southwest Service Commission. Alex?
Thank you, Your Worship. Rezoning application for 66 Main Street by MB Housing was approved by Council, and that bylaw is now registered, so that process is concluded. We have a draft for the municipal plan background study for the municipal district, but what we're doing now is testing some of the assumptions in there with department heads, make sure it makes sense, it's realistic. These guys are the experts, so we've sat down with Recreation, Kev, and we will be with Jeff and the Deputy CAO and maybe Finance as well, just to make sure it all makes sense. And then we can start talking about the communication plan, bringing it to the public and doing some of that survey work and open houses if we're going to be looking at that across the municipal district. So that process is rolling along. Also, I should mention I did a presentation here with Wade and the group for the UMB for what comprehensive planning is really about. More than just zoning, brings in infrastructure and all that, and you were there as well.
Thank you so much. I thought that you should probably come here.
Yeah. So absolutely, I could do that.
No, it was a good presentation.
Good. Right on. So we continue to meet with some developers about different potential housing developments in the municipal district. In terms of development, there's been 46 building permits approved for zoning compliance, referred to the building inspector for issuance. 14 development permits year to date. So your total construction value is $4.7 million. There's been 10 subdivisions approved with 14 new building lots, 12 zoning confirmation letters, 8 variance or terms and condition applications approved or processed, and a couple sign permits, 5 new net dwellings permitted year to date. It's a little lower than last year, but it just kind of depends what kinds of permits come through. And with last year, I think there was an addition of an influx of new dwelling units with the apartments on King Street. As you can see also in your package, we helped with a little bit of park planning with our GIS resources. So that's something we offer sort of as a needed basis where municipal district staff are looking for some sort of assistance with doing some layouts of different options and different potential future developments. So that's something we offer from time to time. So yeah, with that concludes my report, if there's any questions.
Any questions on council? Okay, thank you, Alex. Community service. Kev?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start off and go straight into the rudimentary basics of the outdoor pool and a little lesson for you on how it works. And I want to thank Councillor Greenlaw. He sent a few questions yesterday. He said, be prepared. And it certainly helps to have those topics in line. So just in between the discussion a few minutes ago and now I've gone back. I looked in last year's budget. There was 18,000 set aside for repairs at the Milltown pool. This year there is 25,000. A few of those, the jobs that we've done in this year so far and last year and previous years, we've had the showers improved, complete renovation on the female side in there. We've got the male side planned as well. We've had accessibility doors and ramps added into the pool house area underneath there. We've had some chemical separation work just all done as part of health and safety and making sure that's safe. We've actually put a meter in this year, which I'll speak to in a little minute, just to help gauge how much water we're actually consuming at the pool. We've had, we've seen winterization issues in the past, so we've budgeted for that, using that. So we're using plumbers as well as local plumbers to help us, because it takes the demand off Sean and his crew, because they're very busy with their meters, meter reading and utility work at the start of the year and at the end of the year as well. So there's been lots of work, and council have been great increasing that budget. The price of contractors and supplies has gone up, so we're not alone in that. It's just one of those things. So some of the questions that Councillor Greenlaw had, it was in our report from myself and Aaron, it did mention that there has been leaks, and we have talked about a new liner for a few years now. The good news is I checked with Aaron today. What we've got, the patches are holding right now. Everything is looking good. If we do see a major concern and we lose significant amount of water overnight, we are closing the GCC pool for maintenance in the changing rooms and in around the pool. But it wouldn't take us long, maybe 2 days at most, just to bring the GCC pool back online, heat it up, and transfer the programs back to the indoor pool if needed. At the moment, like I said, we're in good shape. One of the additions, like I said, is a new meter which we've not just put in at the outdoor pool, but we've put one in at the splash pad as well. It's going to tell us how much we are consuming at the end of this year. Now, it's not a typical year because we do have leaks. If we can get a new liner, we will. Then we'll be able to see each year. Hopefully we're not using as much water, money. But there's actually with some of that winterization work, we've noticed that every time we do a backwash, which helps clean the system. Some of the water, which Aaron mentioned in his report, was kind of underneath the liner. It actually came from that backwashing because the parts weren't installed, or they're broken or something. So it's something which we've accidentally caught, and it's going to help us. It's going to save us, finding more water under the liner. It doesn't stop the liner being very thin. Like I said in previous meetings, we have an open pool which is open to sunlight, all the elements, 12 months of the year, and the chemicals and our water in St. Stephen is quite hard as well. So it was built in 2007. They usually tell us they'll last 15 years, so we are living on borrowed time. We hopefully will get us through this year, I think we've got a good system. We've got staff who are trained we've got new staff that have just come in, and they're learning from the mentors that are on our current staff. We have plans in place if anything does go wrong as well. So if there's any questions about the Milltown pool, I can take them now, or I can carry on with my report. It's okay. On this building, the GCC, it's been a little bit quieter. Although we did have grad, I want to thank Sean and the works crew for supporting. They got the floor down very quickly, and they picked it up 4 days later. I think we need to kind of set timing records, because they do it so quickly. It's very impressive. It's great to see if you ever get a chance to just come in and see it. So it's a little quieter in the GCC. Very busy outside, of course, with the parks and the green spaces, the mowing. It's the crazy time for grass growing. Hopefully you've seen some of our wonderful horticultural presentations from our crew. There's immense amount of work that goes into it. Last week during the heat wave, they were watering 3 times, whereas usually it's just twice a day. It's just they want to present the best displays that they can, especially around the grad, because a lot of the grads use Dove Hill Park and the areas around the waterfront for our displays and their photographs. One sad news is we have seen an increase in the number of theft from planters and hanging baskets. We've seen Chocolate Park being hit, the post office twice, turning the corner in Milltown, and across from the customs gateway. So if it's a message to the public, if they're inquiring about plants, that's one thing, but please don't remove them. It's one of the things that does cost time and money, and a lot of effort goes into it, which we don't always see. They're in early, and they're on their hands and knees in the heat with the flies and other things they find on the ground. So it's a kind of testament to them too. Following on from that, our daily sweeps, we haven't found anything in the downtown area regarding needles or syringes. Just an update for council there. We have found one in at the Milltown bandstand, and some pills, but they were just like muscle relaxants, so nothing too crazy. And we want to appreciate the furniture that has appeared in the plaza. It's a collaboration between ourselves and Downtown St. Stephen. The furniture is in place. We've had garbage cans, we've had benches, we've got a few more items still to come, but it looks really good. And when we have our Friday markets, there's places for people to sit and enjoy, and hopefully stay out of the sun too. So yeah. And we're also working with the BIA on the students that are weeding down in the downtown area as well. We've got students which have we've supplied some, and they're supplying some as well, and it's working very well right now. Yeah, that's kind of it. I've talked a lot, so if there is any other questions, please let me know.
I'm here for you. Thank you, Kev. You, Councillor Harding.
Thank you. Just a comment. I was in touch last night with the people who look after the tennis courts, and they were telling me if I saw you to tell you what a great job you're doing. You went up and apparently cleared out around the tennis courts, around the bandstand, and you also said that you're going to continue to do that. So they're very, very happy about that, so I'm passing it on to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wright.
Just one question. Thank you. Just one question, Kev. On your first page, it says your administration has been working through the management of outstanding recreation grants. And I just highlighted that. Could you give a brief explanation? Are they grants due to us or grants that you're working on for other organizations?
The explanation of this one's a little bit on the complex side. What these are is, it's something we discovered a few years ago. We had received grants from various agencies to do projects, and what had happened, it was let's call it an accounting fluke. when those monies were expended on the projects, those expenses were actually taken from the operational budgets rather than the grant funds. So we've had this bank account of grant funds that, yes, the project was completed and the reports were done and nobody's coming looking for the money because it was done. But from the accounting side, we just used operational money instead of the grant money, which means we have this pot of money that we're trying to make sure that, one, that the project was done, or at least the project as close as possible to the description that was attached to it. And if it has been done, then once we've made that determination, we were able to pull that money into as revenue and be able to create a little bit extra revenue in our budget. So it's just a matter of, it's been a long process. We've been being very, very diligent and careful with it to make sure that money is spent in an appropriate place. And Kev's team has been really good about making sure that that we're doing that. So it's like one of the things that was on the list until just recently was the panels for the premiers out by the wharf. We still had the money that we got to help support that program identified in a separate pot, and that was an easy one to say, look out the window, say, yeah, the project's done. Obviously, we paid for everything, so we were able to just transfer that, bring it into revenue, and then in some cases we're earmarking maybe a similar themed project, or if it's a recreation thing, we're keeping it in recreation, not letting it sneak into some other departments. But it's been an ongoing process and slow, but we're doing it slow because we're being very careful with it.
Councillor Heislip?
Question, Kev, about the Gateway Park. What's the status on that sign being erected? And now that that building is gone, I just kind of see an empty space there, so I know that there's plans. So I just wanted to see what where that was standing. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Chief Morton, because it is in the board arena. I'm not sure. Yeah, there was some.
CIA was getting some other stuff,
and then it will go right there, right? Yeah.
Councillor Otis?
Hey, Kev, I see in the report you went to a conference and there were sessions on homelessness in parks, ball diamond maintenance, asset management, and forums on facility best practices. I was wondering if you could speak to the homelessness in parks, like if there were some tips, tricks other municipalities have used, and then maybe same thing as Jeff, key takeaway from that.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great topic. It was penultimate one of the conference, and I wish there'd be more people there. We had a presentation from my equivalent, but it was the city of Vancouver, which is a little bit apples to oranges. But they shared that their park staff are really the first responders, and their conservation officers or park rangers. They're the ones who go in and a little different from the park staff. They go in and check more from the medical side, making sure that they're okay. The park staff are in there instead of trimming trees. They're going in. Providing like soup kitchens and they've got designated waterfront and I don't know if you know Vancouver very well. It's not English Bay. It's one of the not far from the big downtown arena, and they've actually got a designated area. And every 3 months they go in and clean it out. So they sanitize it. They make sure it's safe. They have the building inspector going in because there's bi-level, 2-level. Properties, buildings in there, so making sure that they are safe. So it's using some of those municipal assets and resources for what they're there for, but giving the expertise and making sure that everyone's safe. And there's certainly room for expansion because the problem isn't going away, just like ourselves. My takeaway from the conference, and we've kind of alluded to it tonight, is asset management. Just how this was the Atlantic conference, so it's all the 4 Atlantic provinces, and Nova Scotia is making it part of legislation by 2029 that every municipality should have an asset management plan, they don't think the municipalities will be able to reach that, but they're hoping, and getting as many as they can. And if they don't get there, that's one thing. So I think when I met with Alex and Xander from the RSC, it was great to hear that this is on kind of the RSC's radar as well, and instead of having to invent the wheel, they've got a lot of resources already. Jeremy is great. He's attending regular meetings on this as well, as part of his job, as you've seen through his report. So it's something that we know it's going to come. Are we going to ask you for more funding to help with our assets? Probably, but it's great that we're not alone in this, and hopefully that gets to Fredericton and Ottawa, because we've got rinks that are coming up on 50, from the 1967 centenary. Those rinks that are built, like Jeremy said in his report, Union Street. Our infrastructure is getting old, and we can't find the dollars to keep on band-aiding it. We've got to think better than that. So that's my take from that.
Okay. Thank you, Kev. Any questions on the treasury report? Okay. All right. And Future St. Stephen, he's away this week, so he'll come back with us next meeting. So I would ask, we had a mover, we had a seconder, and there's no more questions. Can I have all those in favor of accepting all the departmental informational reports?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Earl. Any opposed? None? Okay. Thank you. It's improved. New business. Request for decisions. Need a mover and seconder to move into the library board renewal of term. Councillor Harding? Councillor Heislip. That council approved the renewal of the St. Croix Public Library board member Jane Lindsay for a one-year term. Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Thank you, Earl. Any opposed? Most carried. Thank you very much, Jane. And next one, I need a mover and seconder to discuss the redesign of the Rotary Park. Councillor Wright, Councillor Rodas, and is that going to be you, Jeff? Or yeah, okay.
So this is just brought for informational purposes at this time, but as our citizens mentioned earlier during comment period, administration has become aware of the intent of the Legion to fence off their parking area that's on their property. And so we went to work to try to determine the best way to recreate parking, to maintain access to both the ball diamond and the soccer pitch in the best way possible. Thanks to some assistance from our friends at the RSC playing folks and their new mapping technician, we were able to get some nice drawings for you to look at a couple of concepts of different size lots that can happen. We do, because of the design of the park, we do have access off of Main Street into the green space. We already own that area, so it is possible to come in through there. And unfortunately, if we're going to maintain both the ball diamond and the soccer pitch, the location would be the area that we had been earmarking for the pickleball court development on this site. But it would create, you see the couple of concepts in your package, a smaller parking lot and one that's capable of having a fair bit more spots in there. But this is what we're working on as a mitigation plan right now. We'll have to do some costing and determine what can be done on a short-term versus medium-term basis. As far as are we going to go down the pavement road? Are we going to do more of a gravel gravel parking area type scenario? that may come into budget conversations for 2025 as well. But wanted you folks to know, wanted the public to know that we are aware of the situation. We are working on a mitigation plan. We are aware that this impacts the previous commitment by council to consider the pickleball court area, and we have to look at a new location or something along those lines if we went down this path. But we believe that it is important that the public have the access to the screen space if we're going to maintain those fields as the only field owned and operated by our offices. So it's just for information for you at this point, because we don't have numbers and things to put in front of you yet. But certainly if there's any comments or discussion that regarding the proposed layouts, whether one's preferred over the other, or anything like that we can take back and as we continue our work, we're happy to take those comments.
Councilor Rodas?
I would like to know what's been done thus far on the town's end in terms of perhaps sitting with the board of the Legion, discussing with Legion members, just because of the fact that this has been a shared parking lot for many, many years. Before 2016, when the community owned it, Legion members often park there. Now we're kind of flipping the coin, and I understand that there may be some safety concerns that need to be rectified, but I also am a firm believer that we can always come to the table together and create partnerships, and we have a long-lasting relationship with the Legion, so I thought. So it would be my recommendation, at the recommendation of the citizens I've spoken with, that the town actually sit with the full board of the Legion to discuss this. I think it's important, considering tonight we've talked about the assets we have and the limited funds that we, currently have in all of our budgets to deal with the things that are coming our way. So, it's interesting to me because if it's a community-based organization, I would think we could sit together and kind of find some partnership and common ground to, at least for this summer, not have to come up with some sort of plan that's going to cost the taxpayers an incredible amount of money for something that could be as simple as sharing a gate. That's just my 2 cents on that. I think that perhaps there might be somebody connected to the Legion that we may be able to have a conversation with and try to find common ground.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harding?
Thank you. This has absolutely nothing to do with the Legion, but I was told a couple of weeks ago when I had representatives from NB Power in my neighborhood that no, not this year, but next year, the ball diamond would be a go down the other ball diamond at the end, down in the dam area. So I just thought I'd throw that in. Yeah, the dam area, no dam area.
No dam area, sure.
Yes, I was just going to say that looking at the number of parking spaces and trying to visualize, sometimes you go by the number of cars that are there accessing, whether on the side of the road or what's in the Legion parking lot right now. I think the larger one might be better to go down the path if we can make the numbers work. Just from my opinion, you don't want to build too small and then regret it. And they're losing the pickleball area anyway. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Councillor Heislett?
There's a little green square there in the middle of that parking spot. That, you don't have to throw it out. Really, when you look at this, maybe you can design something that will satisfy both things. We are raising money, or not me, I'm not even part of that group. I just play the sport, that's all. But we are actually raising money, and maybe we can come to some kind of agreement of we'll pave some of it and be part of the parking spot, and one corner will be a couple of pickleball courts, because it doesn't take up very much space. 2 pickleball courts go in 1 tennis court, right? So maybe we can do something hybrid there, and I actually went over to Callis today and looked at theirs, and theirs is all their ball diamonds and everything is all in one spot. So it might be an opportunity to have a multi-sports field, and that would add to it. So, and not interfere with the baseball course. I mean, stay outside the boundaries and whatever. But we might have enough space there to do it. So,
yeah, that's certainly something that I'm going to put Alex on the spot and say his mapping guy can probably help us tweak the drawing a little bit and see what it would look like if we tried to fit that in as well. The magic of GIS is they can move those lines around and show us a bunch of different options. So point well taken, and we'll explore it for sure.
Just wondering if you can answer my question about town staff, what has been done thus far, what kind of conversations have been had. I think it's important. The public has been asking me these questions for weeks now, so I just think it's important to be transparent about what the town has done thus far to try to establish some sort of, rectify the situation as far as this summer and mitigate some of the need to actually. And listen, you can have all the feelings you want about this, but this is what the constituents are asking, and they want to know, what has the town done and where did this partnership die?
In the years I've been here, I can say I don't think I've ever had a conversation with the Legion, nor have I been approached by the Legion. And as far as the recent time, I left the communication between the MDSS and the Legion to His Worship to manage, and we've been working on dealing with what the implications are to the property we actually own in the offices. So we've divided the responsibilities.
I had my chat with the Legion. It's a private property. I'm not going to talk about that no more than any other private business in this town. I understand that we all have to be good neighbors, and hopefully everything comes together, but what we need to do is we need to get a plan so we can still either use this field and have what we do have control over, and that's where it stands right now. Go ahead.
Would it be possible for us to write a letter of advocacy from MDSS to the Legion? I mean, we have a partnership where we put up banners for the Legion. We have a request for a donation for $500 for the Ladies Auxiliary tonight for the Legion. So, I mean, to me, it seems kind of counterproductive to not actually sit and have a discussion, a more formal discussion. This is an opportunity for us to sit with the board and have a conversation. And I think just when one or two people are having a conversation and full council and full board is not sitting together, then taxpayers suffer the cost of that. So that would be my formal request tonight.
Hey, I work for council here, so what do you guys want to do?
Well, the Legion owns, and we cannot,
No, I understand that.
Yep. And as for, we have a Legion member that's sitting right up there. How does he feel? All right, good.
Councilor tonight. What's the will of council? Well, you can be bold all you want. They still own the property, right? It's just, I'm not gonna get petty about banners and about stuff that we've done in the past. I don't get me wrong. I'm not in favor of gate going up. I don't support that personally. But again, it's not our property. We cannot make decisions for a private property owner. The sad reality of that, it is. I mean, I hope that we can all be good neighbors maybe and work something out. I'm all for that. But we also have to get ready and plan, because we're going to have groups that can't park if the gate goes up. So we got to get ready. We got to do our due diligence. So I don't know what more we can do. Go ahead, Councillor.
Considering we have a counselor at the table who has a very significant role in the Legion, to me it seems interesting that we can't seem to come to some sort of compromise when we have a counselor representing the town and the Legion both.
I want to stop.
It is a conflict of interest.
Crossing the line. We do have to stop. So anyway, we're crossing lines there. Anyway. But again, I am not in favor of this, folks. I just know that where the line is getting crossed here. It's, believe me, put the pressure on. You write your letters, and yeah, that's, yeah. But you got to know the councilor role. Anyways.
Yeah. Are we still up on, like, I would like to see a conversation happen.
Yes.
And, it's unfortunate, and, I think I was only at one Legion meeting. I'm a Legion member, but I was at that meeting because my wife was getting an award, and then this came up as a voting thing, and I was concerned. I said, what happened in the last 70 years? That, so, because we've owned it right up to 2016, and everybody parked in the parking lot. And there was explanations, and I see one side of it, and I see the other side, but I think it's important to have a conversation just to see if we're going to spend all this money on another parking lot. We're going to spend double what it would take to pave that or help them pave that, and they're going to spend an absorbent amount of money for a fence. That takes a lot of money out of the Legion's pocket. So, I mean, maybe there is some kind of give and take there, compromise in middle road. I don't know. But until we have that conversation, we don't know. So that's my 2 cents of it. So.
Well, as it stands now, I can have conversations myself personally, but as a council representative, I need the will of council. So if I got the will of council, we'll ask for a meeting. Doesn't mean they're going to have one with us neither, but we'll ask for it. But I still haven't got the will of council yet.
I'm always about, compromise and about working together. So I think to sit down with the members of the Board of the Legion and vet everything out and make sure that the pros and the cons of both sides are discussed and well understood, and then a decision's made on how we move forward. This is a viable option. Should it not? Should we not be able to get compromised? But I don't see any reason why we can't at least reach out to the Legion and offer that. If they say no, we've made our decision, then great, then we go this way.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm also always in favor of conversations. It never hurts to have a conversation. I think that should start with you for sure. But at the same time, I don't think we should put on hold this alternate option, because even when the parking lot was available to use, the parking lot that does belong to the Legion, I will clarify that, that's their private property to do with as they see fit. But even when that was in use, there's sometimes still lots of cars with no place to park. So it might not be a bad idea to have the other one anyway.
Good point.
1, 2, 3. So, Councillor?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, I would agree with the conversation.
So I've got enough. I haven't heard from Brian yet, but I mean, I've got enough anyway. But yeah, you certainly can.
I make sure. Little bit of diversion, but Mr. Mayor, this private property thing seems to be coming up all over the place. We've got an email, private property, completely full of garbage, want us to clean it up, say that an individual, and probably right, will not accept. I don't want to hear that it's not our property, but we don't seem to have a clear understanding where the demarcation zone is between the town and private properties. That goes down to the picture I have here with an encampment on private property. Property people want us to clean it up. These people move, I think, from our last meeting every 3 hours. We're going to have great fun on private property. So I don't know. It's new to me, but I understand where you're coming from. I understand where you're coming from. But the bottom line is our constituents don't have a clear picture of what the town is responsible for and what they get involved in and what is theirs. So I don't know. We might have to talk a little bit more about private properties and where we get involved, we don't get involved. That's it.
All right, so I got enough councillors that you want me to set up a meeting with council on the Legion. If they'll accept, I'll let you know. And again, it's a big change for us to deal with, and we have to, again, as Joyce or Councilor Wright said, we got to have a plan. You always got to be prepared. And again, it gives you data to help make your decision too, if you have all the math. Yeah, I don't know much more we can say on that right now. It's just we'll just have a meeting, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, I will say, not to get too deep into this, is when I go back and say we all got to be good neighbors, not like even the Legion had issues because they were trying to have events as well, and it hindered their work. Again, that's why they're trying to do their stuff at Legion. So we have to respect theirs, and it works both ways. That's why I said we got to try to be good neighbors. That's all I can ask. And if there's a good path forward, if we can come to something, that would be great. But anyway, we'll leave it with the meeting. Thank you. Did we talk enough about the Rotary parking then?
Yes, we have. Perfect. Beat that to death.
All right. Did we get a pickleball court in the middle of it, or no? All right. All right. So now we got the draft annual report. Draft.
Yeah, this is again, it was touched on earlier in the meeting. This is the draft. I wanted to make sure that you got as much as we have currently ready before the legislative deadline, which is the end of June. As more material becomes available, we'll finish off the sections. We also just got word that they are changing the regulation relating to the annual reports, and they're going to be adding a whole bunch more stuff in here we'll have to report on, probably starting in June of next year. The regulation's out for comment right now. I don't expect that it'll change, but they're bringing in some more requirements around asset management, where we're at in that process, and the important things that we should be keeping the public abreast on as well. So I think it's going to it'd be a good addition. It's going to be a bunch more work to get the material together every year and get it updated, but it's going to make that annual report that much more important to our citizens who choose to spend some time reading through a lot of numbers and a lot of financial reporting. But so we'll keep you posted as to where we're at as far as those. But really, we're waiting, as you see in there, a lot of it's the audited financial numbers that we require. But once you guys have signed off on the audit, then we can drop those in and release this.
Any questions? You guys all good? Yeah, good. All right. Okay. So, I had a mover and seconder. All those in favor of accepting the request for new business decisions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. A mover and seconder for the correspondence from the St. Stephen Rural Cemetery and the Royal Canadian Legion Junior Ladies Auxiliary donation request. Councillor Harding? Councillor Greenlaw? Any discussion on St. Stephen Rural Cemetery thank you letter? Just you've all thank you letter, so okay. Royal Canadian Legion Junior Ladies Auxiliary donation request. I'm guessing we'd put that on our budget talk, if the will council.
Just to clarify, I don't think they're looking for $500. They give out $500 bursaries. They're looking for gifts or prizes to give away at the bingo that they hold. Yep. So they're not looking for that significant.
So that could be just done in-house anyway, without council, right?
Yeah, generally these requests are dealt with by Mr. Sumner and myself, so we'll take a look, and I suspect that we'll be able to come up with something that is suitable for their event.
And all those in favor of accepting the correspondence?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Mover and second to accept the council reports.
Can I just guys make a statement?
Back up, or where we're at
It's just
in general?
Yeah, just a point of clarification.
Okay, sure, I think.
Just for the benefit of the people, the rural people, there is a website, a GMB website, that tells you what roads are going to be paved when, what years are going to be paved, right? So there is a website for that. And non-designated road, means it gets 0 level of service. That means, so even if the town takes it over, right now, non-designated roads get no service, no plowing, no maintenance, no scraping, no anything, right? So just, there's lots of those. Yeah, that's it, thank you.
Was that it? Okay.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Counselor. All right, mover and seconder to set the council reports. Counselor Heislip, Counselor Cornish, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, mover, no, we already went into close.
No, this is a new one. This is a new one.
Oh, Jesus. Good work. Okay. Great. I thought we were going to close and get out of here. All right. I need a mover and seconder to move into close, please. For pursuant to Section 68, Bracket 1, the Local Governments Act, the council moved to closed session for the purpose of discussing, negotiating an agreement. Councilor Greenlaw, Councilor Cornish, all those in favor? Opposed? Aye. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.